Continued from page 86. There's a long, uneasy silence after he finishes talking until Marcel jumps up nervously and shouts, "Why are we talking about the serious stuff all of a sudden? Making me depressed. I thought this was a Christmas party." "Yes, you're right, it is." Mr. Collins puts on a big smile and walks over to the boombox. "Let's get some Christmas music on and talk about something else." But later, when we're loading up Mr. Collins' car with leftover food and party stuff, I can't keep my voice from starting to tell him the story of my mom and Graham. Maybe Marcel doesn't understand what he meant, but I do. "I lost my mom when she was 19, too," I say as we're walking down the hallway, and the other two are way back of us. "So I know what you mean about math and life." Then, before I can stop, I hear my voice pouring out the whole story. How my mom went out riding in a shiny blue sports car the night she died. How I'd been sick and colicky, my Graham said, and I'd spent 2 solid days and nights screaming and crying until nobody wanted me anymore, least of all my mom, who was still young and not ready for a baby at all, especially not wrinkly-faced screaming me. "Just going out for a drive with some friends and getting something to eat," she told my Graham. "I'll be home before 8. But she never came home. The cops knocked on Graham's door about 9 that night and asked if she had a daughter who had gone out riding with 2 friends in a dark blue car. When Graham said yes, they told her that the car had been racing down the road, lost control, and hit a pole, and all of them were killed. All 3 people. Every time Graham told this story, I always blame my mom's death on the blue car. I don't know why. Maybe it was easier to hate a car than people. I tell Mr. Collins that Graham raised me until her heart began to act up. That's when the phrase she always used, act up. I started with trouble catching her breath. I remember how I would fly up the dark wooden steps of her house, taking them 2 at a time. I'd stand at the top waiting, and she'd go up 3 or 4 steps and have to stop to rest. "You and your young legs," she would say, trying to smile and cough and fanning her face with her hand. "Not sure how I can make it all the way up there to tuck you into bed tonight, honey pie." And then it wasn't long before she couldn't go up the steps. She slept on the couch in the living room, wrapped in the bright colored crochet afghans that she liked to make, and I was the only one who lived in the upstairs rooms. When I was 7 years old, she had to be put in a hospital, and she died in the same hospital just a month later. But I leave out the other part of the story, which is the fact that I was the one who called for the ambulance that took her to the hospital in the first place. If I hadn't done that, maybe everything would have just continued on like always. Me running around the upstairs room, playing Magic Castle and building forts, and Graham sleeping under her crocheted quilts downstairs. I also don't mention the bouquet of yellow flowers either. When the nurse sat down next to me in the waiting room one morning and told me that Graham had left for heaven during the night, I was holding a bouquet of yellow daisy flowers I had planned on giving her that day. I remember staring at those yellow flowers and hating them with all my might, because it seemed to me those flowers must have known Graham was gone and just let me go ahead and buy them anyway. Yellow and blue had been my bad luck colors ever since. After the whole story pours out in me like a river that can't be stopped, I'm afraid right away that I'd never told anybody about my Graham and my mom before. What is my problem? But Mr. Collins seems so to understand some of what I'm saying, I think. "That's a hard way to go through life, I know, Charisse," he says, quickly panning one hand on my shoulder like an uncomfortable father. "I felt the same way about my brother, very much the same way. It isn't easy, still isn't easy." I know this sounds like a strange Christmas party, but to tell you the truth, it was a really good time. When I walked down the street to my bus stop after the party was over, I felt lighter. My mind was full of Christmas songs and chocolate cake and red and green streamers, and for the first time I had told somebody the story of my mom and Graham, and I felt better about that too. I should have known that the feeling wouldn't last long. Marcel. Nobody eats barbecue in January, that's the truth. It's teeth chattering, spit freezing weather. Me and Willie Q huddle up in the back room, try not to freeze to death from cold and boredom. Parking lot is covered in about a foot of snow. Order window jammed shut if anybody comes up to order, which almost nobody does. I had to put on my coat, push my shoulder into the side door, and get it to open against the snowdrifts. Go around the building and take their order. I always give them my "what kind of crazy person would you want barbecue when it's 10 below" look. "You poor kid," they usually say. "Does your boss make you come out here and take orders without any hat or gloves?" "Yep," I always nod, while my fingers turn into blue icicles writing down their order. Maybe they won't come back again, I figure. Child abuse, you know. Willie Q spends most of his day hunched over his stool, squinting at the little black and white TV on the counter. He watches all the talk shows and worries about how much money we aren't making. Pack your bags, Marcel, he'd tell me every half hour. I hear them coming to evict us. Worst month in all years he's been doing business, he says. Always been the worst month, every January. Don't say that to Willie Q, though. Ever since the conversation in math club about Mr. Collins' brother dying in Vietnam, I've been trying to be nicer around him. That conversation in math club got me thinking. No, Willie Q. No, me. Maybe I'm trying to show him I'm glad he kept himself alive in Vietnam so I could be alive too. I don't know. How about making up some new sauce? I say in the one no customer afternoon. Willie Q's eyes flicker from the TV to me. What's wrong with the sauces we got? I shrug my shoulders. Just trying to think of something new, I tell him. Willie Q snorts. We don't need new sauce. We need sales. He goes back to watching TV, and I go back to doing a half finished crossword from an old newspaper I found sitting on top of the meat freezer. But it isn't long before Willie Q turns toward me again. What kind of sauce were you thinking of? I tell him we need a winter flavor. Nobody wants tar in the summertime in January. I can't even see tar, or blacktop, or anything but snow in January. Willie Q snaps his fingers. Snow in January sauce, that's it. The rest of the afternoon, me and Willie Q make a mess of the back kitchen, trying to cook up a winter barbecue sauce that's white. We pull out just about every bowl in the place and mix together all kinds of crazy ingredients. Willie Q starts pulling off the shelves of the refrigerator, left and right. Mayonnaise, white vinegar, milk, cream of tartar, even a handful of snow. Man, that's awful. We laugh and choke and cough, trying to taste of everything. A few times we nearly fall over, laughing so hard when we spit tar and mayo all over our shirt. Willie Q has to stop for air and wipe the tears out of his eyes. We never get a good snow in January sauce made, but like Willie Q says, it didn't matter. At least it keeps us from freezing to death or going crazy. Rondell. Maybe I notice things about Charisse that no one else sees. Nobody else seems to realize how different she is after coming back from Christmas vacation. Before vacation, she asked unstoppable questions and talked more than anybody except my Aunt Asia. She organized the Christmas party and we all did the decorations together. But after coming back, she is mostly silent and lost somewhere inside of herself. She is like the small tetrahedrons after they are folded up and glued together. Withdrawn is the college word I'd use for her. I wonder if there is something wrong with her family. Maybe somebody who has let the devil take hold, and as my mom says about families who fall into drinking or drugs. Then I realize that even though I've told her all about my mom and how she's a religious person who directs the Sanctuary Baptist Church choir on Sundays, and I've all talked about my dad who's left when I was 2 years old, and I even told her about my Aunt Asia who wears gold nail polish and has different hair every time you see her. Charisse has kept to herself a mystery the entire time. I don't even know what kind of family Charisse has. I can't remember whether she even talked about a mom or a dad, or even other brothers and sisters. In fact, the only thing I know about our family is that the street where they live, 15th Street, because she takes the number 209 bus with me sometimes, and I see her turn the corner. There she gets off at the stop. Is there anything bothering you? I try and ask her one afternoon at math club when we're sitting down to work. The words come out of my mouth nervously. No, why? She answers. I can't think of what to reply for next, except that she seems different all of a sudden. Her eyes flash me a look of suspicion. What's wrong? What's different? She asks. A day or so later, while we're riding on the school bus, I try to find out more about her family. I choose the question carefully and ask while I'm talking about my mom's job at the downtown hospital and all the hours she works. Where does your mom work? I inquire, as if just an ordinary question, but Cherise turns her face toward the bus window and tells me she doesn't like talking about her mom. There are other things I notice too. I feel embarrassed for noticing them, as if I'm prying. I don't think she's a good word to be. But I can't help noticing how Sharice's face is too ashy looking and dry, and her eyes are shadowy and tired, as if she's staying up way too late. Her hair isn't kept up the way it used to be either. It straggles out of its twisty and fuzzy whips that she's always reaching up and trying to smooth down her hands. In math club, she acts strangely now wherever we are ready to leave. After we walk outside, she's always forgetting something in the building and asking Mr. Collins if she can run in and get it. Her purse, her homework, her keys, her gloves. Don't wait for me, she tells us. Each time, Mr. Collins laughs and sighs and shakes his head. You need to be more organized, Charisse. I shouldn't let you back in the building if I'm not here. But she'll always duck inside the door fast before you could say any more. I'll remember next time, she always promises, only she never does. Sometimes I have the feeling that Charisse is hiding more secrets than any of us really knows.